君が明日蛇となり人を食らい始めるとして人を食らったその口で僕を愛すと終えたとして僕は果たして今日と同じように君を愛すと言えるだろうか。
Hello guys, it's me Simo Orahara, and in this video we will talk about one of Kubo's answers related to Gin and why he betrayed Aizen and how Kubo developed that scenario of betrayal. By the way, Kubo's answer was included in an old interview that was in the book 13 Blades and was also included in the third box set. That's why before we see Kubo's answer, we need to know Gin's full story so we can all understand this answer of Kubo. In the beginning, Gin Ichimaru used to live in the Rekongai. We don't know in which area he lived, but there is no doubt that he lived in areas above the number 50, because when he met Matsumoto for the first time, he didn't wear sandals. And as Kira said in chapter 489, whoever lived above these areas did not wear sandals. We don't know exactly whether Gin previously knew Matsumoto or not, and it is true that the first time they met was in this scene. But if you go back to Gin's second flashback, you will see that Gin was watching from afar what Aizen's followers were doing to her. So I have the idea that Gin might have been watching Matsumoto from afar without she knows about that. And from what we can see, Matsumoto was living in a small house. Was she living alone or with other people? We don't know. All we know is that one day Aizen's followers came and attacked her and extracted the king's nail from her. Yes, for those who don't know, Matsumoto is a soul that had the king's nail inside her body. The kid Gin witnessed this attack in front of his eyes, and he knew that these people were not working alone, but they had someone to move them, and he is Aizen Sasuke. The important thing is that after Aizen and his follower left, Gin came to Matsumoto and gave her some food. And these scenes are from chapter 129. We talk here about the beginning of the story. And this was their first meeting, and as you can see, there were signs of beating on Matsumoto's face and her entire body. And these scenes were the same in chapter 415. And here Gin is going to take Matsumoto with him and go a little deeper inside the regions of Rekongai that's under number 50. And by the way, this question was asked to Kubo, because in this scene of chapter 129, Gin wasn't wearing a sandal, and later in chapter 415, we saw both of them wearing the sandals. So what's there? And as Kubo said that after they have met the first time, they moved to another area where people were wearing sandals. Anyway, I don't know how much time passed on that first incident, but Gin seems to have spent some time thinking about how to get revenge from Aizen Sasuke. Because in this scene, Matsumoto asked him about the Shihakusho that Gin was carrying. Where did he get from? And I think it might be a Shihakusho of one of the Shinigamis who attacked Matsumoto. So it might be that Gin killed him after he extracted some information about Aizen. And I think then he knew that in order to take revenge from Aizen, he must get close to him and be his right servant in order to achieve his goal, which is revenge. So they both, Matsumoto and Gin, entered the academy in the same year. Gin graduated in 1 year and became a Shinigami, and Matsumoto graduated after a while. And these are almost the scenes regarding Gin and Matsumoto's past. And after that we will witness the events of Aizen Sasuke's death. Kubo portrayed it as if Gin was the real enemy and he is the one who killed Aizen. Then it turns out that Aizen Sasuke is the one who masterminded everything. And in the last scenes of the Soul Society arc chapters, we will see an important scene related to Gin when he was going with Aizen and Tosen. He looked at Matsumoto and said, "I'm sorry." And then it turns out that everything Gin has done was for Matsumoto's sake. But what if I told you guys that this scenario couldn't happen, and there was a scenario would have happened? The scenario of Gin did not do all of this for Matsumoto's sake, but because he was only evil or for any other reason. How is that? This is what Kubo answered when he was asked about when he decided there was a secret about Gin's betrayal of Aizen. Kubo here will say that he actually had two ideas about this, and it didn't specify which one. One idea is that Gin went over to Aizen's side because he wanted revenge from Aizen, and another idea is that he's really an enemy. So in the absence of a final idea to take, Kubo created a scenario that makes both ideas feasible. For example, Gin could remain with Aizen for the last moment so that he will be killed either by one of the characters other than Aizen, or he will be imprisoned, and by that it would like he did everything for himself and not for Matsumoto. Therefore, Kubo tried his best to avoid making scenes showing which way Gin would choke, because Kubo himself hadn't decided which path Gin would choose. But it seems that Kubo at some point saw that he wanted Gin to betray Aizen, and that's what we saw and happened. Although he admitted that he also loves Gin as a character fit to play the role of a bad guy. And this is what we saw frankly. Kubo made Gin literally embody the snake, and perhaps Rocky's description of Gin is more suitable for this character. A snake that strangles humans with its poisonous personality, but also a snake that loves Matsumoto and did everything to get back what was stolen from her. And also, as I said earlier, you can see one of the aspects of Kubo in writing. Sometimes he doesn't decide some things and leaves them aside, or talks about them in a kind of ambiguity, as a question of whether the Soul King is a person or a thing, so that you find evidence it says it's just a thing and evidence that it says he's a person. The same is true with Yuhaba. We don't know for sure if he is really the son of Ryo or just an embodiment of his strength, so that even if one of the two things is determined, we will see that there is evidence to support it. I personally agree with the idea that Kubo followed, which is that Gin did what he did for Matsumoto, and frankly, he made a foreshadowing for that by drawing scenes of them in chapter 121. Kubo laid the foundation of Gin and Matsumoto's relationship, and that they are linked by an unusual past, and in light of that, Aizen is that person who can manipulate anyone in order to reach his goal. It's not surprising that he would have ordered his followers to attack Matsumoto and take away the king's nail from her, and this made Gin wanted to avenge the girl he loved the most. For all of this, I find that the scenes that Kubo drew to Gin saying I'm sorry is one of the most prominent things that shows that Kubo was going to the scenario of revenge. So guys, tell me what do you think about Kubo's answer, and which idea do you like? The first one of Gin's betrayal or the second one? And see you guys in my next video.
As you fade away,
yeah, I'm about to fade away, 'cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with thought.